Good morning class, Sai Ram. Today we will start our topic, that is Bohr's atomic model, and in this topic you can understand like the first assumption that is made, that electron can revolve in a certain non-radiating orbit called stationary orbits, for which the angular momentum of electron is an integer multiple of h upon 2 pi. So this model says that your electron revolves around the nucleus and in such a path that its angular momentum, that is MVR, is constant, and that is multiple of h upon 2 pi, and where this n will be your 1, 2 and 3, and this is called your principal quantum number. Okay, and this h is your Planck's constant. So radiation of energy occurs only when your electron will jump from one permitted orbit to the another permitted orbit. Suppose if you have more than one cell, or you can say like n equal to 1, n equal to 2. So transition of energy will take place only your electron, if your electron jumps from n equal to 1 to 2 or n equal to 2 to 1. Okay, in that condition only your transition will take place. So whenever transition of electron or jumping of electron occurs, or you can say that transition of electron occurs from one energy level to another energy level, then energy either it is absorbed or it is emitted. Okay, if your electron is moving from lower energy level, that is n equal to 1, to a higher energy level, then it will require some energy. But if it moves or it jumps from n equal to 2 to n equal to 1, that means higher energy level to lower energy level, in that case it will emit photon, okay, or energy. So that energy or energy of photon can be given as difference of those two energy level, that is E2 minus E1. Okay, where E1 and E2 are what? That are energies of electron in orbits. Now second thing is that what will be the radius of the orbit of electron? How we can determine that radius? So that radius is given by following expression, that is r equal to n square, that is number of shell, into h square upon 4 pi square m into k into z square. Now understand this k is what? This is your one constant 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. Okay, z is your atomic number, here you can read it, and E is your electronic charge or charge of electron, h is your Planck's constant. So by this expression we can calculate radius, or we can say that our radius will be equal to n square upon z, proportional to this quantity. Second thing is that what is the velocity of moving electron? Okay, so velocity of moving electron can be given by this expression, that is 2 pi k into z square upon nh, or in short form we can say that your velocity is proportional to z by n. So next thing is frequency of electron. So frequency is given by the expression, that is kze square upon nhr. Now here you have to put the value of radius that we got over here. That value if you will put at this place, you will get this expression in this form, that is 4 pi square z square e raised to the power 4 into mk square upon nq into hq. So for numerical purpose you have to remember it, and you can say that your velocity is proportional to this factor, that is zq upon nq. By taking ratio also for comparable questions, you can tell the velocity of any moving electron. Second thing is that kinetic energy of the electron. So we know that in any orbit this expression can be given by 2 pi square m e raised to the power 4 z square into k square upon n square h square. Okay, if you will solve the expressions like 2 pi square, you will put the mass of electron, charge of electron, etc., then you will get this factor, that is 13.6 into z square upon n square and electron volt. This energy will come out in electron volt. Now potential energy for electron is given by this expression, that is minus 4 pi square into m e raised to the power 4 into z square into k square whole upon n square into h square. This factor comes out to be 27.2 z square upon n square electron volt, this much energy. So you can say that your potential energy is proportional to the atomic number square upon n square. Now if you want to calculate total energy, then total energy of revolving electron can be calculated by doing summation of kinetic and potential energy. Okay, and that summation will come out in this form, that is minus 13.6 into z square upon n square electron volt. So again your total energy is proportional to z square upon n square. Now second thing is that how to calculate wavelength of emitted radiation from n2 to n1. So for wavelength also we have expression, and for wavelength we can write this expression as hc upon lambda. Okay, that hc portion will go to the denominator part here, so we have mentioned it by chq. Okay, and because already we have h square over here, so we can write that 1 by wavelength equal to 2 pi square mk square e raised to the power 4 z square upon chq. And we have to take difference also, and here we have the term that is n square. So for that we will write n1 square minus n2 square, because your electron is moving between these two energy levels. So this whole value is considered as a constant, that is capital R, which is called Rydberg constant, and this expression can be written in this form. So value of Rydberg constant is this much. It is constant and is given by 1.097 into 10 raised to the power 4 per meter. Okay, because it is opposite to, it has opposite unit to that of wavelength. If we compare unit of Rydberg constant and wavelength, then both are opposite, because these two are just numbers, n1 and n2. Now we have hydrogen spectrum series. So understand that each element emits some spectrum of radiation, and which is the characteristic of the element itself. The spectrum consists of a set of isolated parallel lines and is called line spectrum. Those isolated parallel lines are called line spectrum. So in hydrogen we have these many series, these many lines or line spectra. You can say that first series is for n equal to 1, that is called Lyman series, and after that we have n equal to 2, that is called Balmer series. For n equal to 3 we have Bastian series, then n equal to 4 we have Brackett, then Pfund. So if your electron jumps to n equal to 1, okay, if your electron will jump to n equal to 1, it may jump from second cell, or it may jump from n equal to 3, or it may jump from n equal to 4, but it should jump to the first orbit, first cell only. In that case we will call it Lyman series. Okay, these three lines are denoting that your electron is moving from n equal to 2, then n equal to 3 over here, then here n equal to 4, but each line is meeting at Lyman series or n equal to 1. Similarly in Balmer series, your electron should jump from n equal to 3 to 2, or n equal to 4 to 2, or you can say n equal to 5 to 2. Now the same thing is defined over here, that when for Lyman series we define it when electron jumps from n equal to 2, 3 or 4 orbit to n equal to 1, then a line of Lyman series is obtained. Okay, and this lies in the violet region. After that Balmer series we have n equal to 3, 4, 5 to n equal to 2. So you have to remember all these things, that these are these ranges you have to remember, that Balmer series has a range that is of visible range, and Paschen is infrared. This series lies in infrared region. After that, in bracket series we have wavelength of infrared region, and again in P-Fund series we have the same wavelength, that is infrared, that is of infrared region. Now we will look for next topic, or you can say next chapter, that is semiconductor. So in this chapter basically we will understand those metals, not metals, you will say those elements which have property of metal and non-metal also, or they are called basically semiconductors. Okay, and in this chapter we will learn how your semiconductor works and how they conduct electricity. Okay, in photosensitive material or in solar panel, these kind of elements are preferred for conduction of electricity. So first of all, we have to understand the substance on the basis of conduction of electricity. How many kinds of substance we have? First of all, we have solid, and substance are mainly classified into three categories, that is solid, liquid and gas. So for solid atom, if we talk, they have the fixed atoms. Okay, their definite positions is given, and average distance between two atoms is constant, and depending upon the internal arrangement of the atom, solid are further classified into these groups. Like we have crystalline solids, after that we have amorphous solid. Okay, and similarly we have monocrystal or polycrystal. After that we have liquid crystal solids. This classification you have already done in your solid state chapter of class 12th chemistry. Like in solid state chapter you must have learned all such geometries like FCC, SC, VCC. Okay, all these crystal structure you have learned. Okay, so basically in this chapter we will focus on classification of solids on basis of conductivity. So we have three kind of solids, which is conductor, insulator and semiconductor. Now conductors will be those solid or substance through which electricity can pass easily, that is all metal will be considered as conductor. After that we have insulators. Insulator are those substance through which electricity cannot pass, like wood, rubber, mica, etc. After that we have third classification, that is semiconductor. In semiconductor we can say these are those substance which conduct electricity, and this property lies between conductors and insulators. Some examples of semiconductor are like germanium, silicon and carbon. After that we have energy bands of solid. The first thing, that is energy band. After that we have to learn valence band, then conduction band. Okay, and here we will have forbidden band. So all these terms you will understand one by one. So first of all, understand what is the energy band. So in a crystal, due to interatomic interaction, valence electron of one atom are shared by more than one atom in the crystal. Now splitting of energy level take place. The collection of these closely spaced energy levels is called energy band. So in this topic basically I want to tell you, like you must have learned about MOT theory or molecular orbital theory, in which we consider like one atom will have some energy level, say n equal to 1, 2, then n equal to 2, like this. So these n equal to 1, n equal to 2, these are called what? These are called energy level of any atom. But if we join two atoms, join means if we have any molecule which has two atoms, then in that case the second atom will also have energy levels like this. Okay, and these energy level combine together, so they are very closely placed to each other. Okay, so such band we will get a kind of band of energy. Okay, band of energy level. So this band of energy level is nothing but is your energy band in crystal. This is called energy band. Okay, similarly we have valence band. This energy band contains valence electron. This band may be partially or completely filled with electron but never be empty. In valence band we will have some electron. Okay, in outermost cell or outermost band of energy we will have some electron that will be considered as valence band. Okay, the electrons in this band are not capable of gaining energy from external electric field to take part in conduction of current. So third category is what? That is conduction band. In conduction band we can say that this band contains conduction electron. Okay, and this band is either empty or partially filled with electron. Electron present in this band take part in the conduction of current. Why it is called conduction band? Because these are the electron which move in our whole circuit. Okay, and these electrons are responsible for conduction of electricity. After that we have forbidden energy band or forbidden gap. This band is completely empty and the minimum energy required to shift an electron whose valence band to conduction band is called energy gap. Okay, and this energy gap is nothing but your forbidden energy gap. This is basically a difference of energy levels between your valence band, okay, that is EV, and conduction band. This gap is called forbidden energy gap, that is EG. After that we have kind of emissions. Like how many types of emission we have? First emission is thermionic emission. Thermionic emission occurs when a metal is heated at a high temperature. Your metal will be provided some kind of heat and it will absorb, the electron will absorb that heat, and the free electron or valence electron of the metal will gain kinetic energy and they will escape through the surface of the metal. After that, second kind of emission we have thermionic diode, or you can say the type of diode. Okay, from where basically that is, the diode is nothing but that electrode from which your emission of electron is taking place. Okay, that electrode at which we will perform thermionic emission. So what is the thermionic diode? The thermionic diode is a two electrode, that is cathode and anode plate device called thermionic emission. A diode allow unidirectional flow of electron. Okay, in a diode what we will have, that unidirectional flow of electron will take place, that is from one plate is positive, considered as positive with respect to the cathode, hence it is also called a valve. Okay, valve, basically these are not used in modern circuit. You can say these are the ancient circuits. Okay, these are kind of valves, these are called valves. In modern apparatus you can say we use basically chip, that is called semiconductor chip, which is responsible for conduction. And triode also we use in ancient time, and triode, that is have a cathode plate and grid enclosed in any evacuated glass bulb. So our topic starts from here, that we have to learn basically how many kinds of semiconductor material we have. So first we have intrinsic semiconductor, which is also called a pure semiconductor or pure state semiconductor. Then we will have extrinsic semiconductor, which is called impure, or basically it is doped. Doped means mixing, and what we mix in it, we mix some kind of impurity to increase its conductivity. Okay, why we add this impurity? Because we have to increase its conductivity, and such kind of conductors or semiconductors are called your extrinsic semiconductor. Further, these extrinsic semiconductors are divided into two types. You can understand, one is n-type semiconductor and second will be your p-type semiconductor. So in n-type semiconductor we use the impurity which is arsenic, okay, antimony or bismuth, etc., in which you can say there are 5 electron, okay, and or you can say which are negatively charged, and they works as a charge carrier, and this is called n-type semiconductor. Next we have p-type semiconductor. In p-type semiconductor, basically we add trivalent impurity, that is like aluminum, boron, etc. And we can say that it is basically positively charged holes, which works as a charge carriers in p-type semiconductor, because in aluminum or in boron we know that it is trivalent, so one electron deficiency occurs over there. So to fill this particular deficiency, one electron is needed. So we can consider that these trivalent impurity will have a tendency to accept one electron, therefore it is also called acceptor atom, because it accepts electron. After that we can say that in doped semiconductor, or in those semiconductor which has some kind of impurity, this relation holds true, that is Ne into Nh equal to Ni square, where Ne is number of electron and Nh is number of hole, and Ni is charge carrier, that is intrinsic charge carriers or charge carrier in pure intrinsic semiconductor, and this charge carrier may be electron or hole. Now for n-type semiconductor, we know that number of electron density or number of electron are greater than number of hole. Similarly, in p-type semiconductor, we have a number of hole that will be greater than number of electron, because we have added in p-type semiconductor we have added trivalent impurity. That's why it will be greater. Number of hole will be greater. After that we have one formula also, that is for electrical conductivity, that how your conductivity of semiconductor has been improved by doping or by mixing. So conductivity formula is given as conductivity is equal to 1 by resistivity, and this is given by following formula, that E charge of electron into Ne into mu E, where Ne is number of electron, okay, and mu is mobility of electron, plus Nh, that is number of hole, into mu H, that is mobility of hole. For germanium, you have to remember that forbidden energy gap is given by this value, that is 0.72 electron volt. This is constant for germanium. Similarly, forbidden energy gap is 1.1 electron volt for silicon, that is difference of energy levels between conduction band and valence band. Okay, so this is all for today. Thank you. Sai Ram.